What's up? What's up? Hey there to all my Confidence Factor men. Welcome to Confidence Factor Talks for Men. I am one of your hosts, Lamont Gwynn. We are in for a special treat tonight. If you've ever had some troubles in life, if you ever had some adversity in life, our guest tonight is really going to help us to break through. Imagine living a life, experiencing being paralyzed. Wow. And to be able to come back from that. Oh, we're going to have a really robust conversation tonight. And I'm so happy to be here. But I can't start this show by myself. I have to bring on my brothers. So, quick note, if you have somebody who's experiencing some issues today, they are experiencing some paralysis, send them the link to our YouTube channel so they can watch it live on YouTube. This is going to be a really deep conversation. You're going to get a lot out of it. And we want as many men to be a part of this as possible. So if you're watching, let us know where you're watching us from. Put hashtag heart level. And if you're watching this on the replay, put hashtag replay. Our topic for tonight is walking miracle. How to shortcut your way to success after being paralyzed by life. Ooh, it's going to be a great conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the stage my brother, east of where I am in Orlando. He's at the Hill Estates. Love going to the Hill Estates. None other than my brother, Darian Hill. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, fellas? Lions, I am in the building, as Woody Rose would say. And today, we're having another CF Talks. A special guest is coming on to share some value, share some nuggets, share some insights, share some transformation. I'm truly excited for today's conversation. What's going on, Lamont?
Man, it's been a week. It's been a week. But I am here, and I'm glad to be a part of this community. I really am.
Love it. Of course. But before we start and get into specifically who we are and all the details, we want to bring on another brother who's here today to be in this conversation. As you know, we here at Confidence Factor, we have heart level conversations that lead to transformation. You heard me right? Heart level conversation that lead to transformation. And we believe that one conversation can change your life. And it's all about transforming lives. It's all about making sure that you have the right information to grow. But before we start, of course, let's bring on none other than the Dr. Love Jones himself, Mr. Javon Jones in the building. Mr. Level Up, what's going on, champion?
What's going on, man? Listen, I'm just going to be honest. I got to be real. It's hard for us to have heart-level conversations without the love doctor, because that's where the love starts.
I love it. It's good to see you here, fella. Good to see you here, brother.
It's good to be here. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited for this show and can't wait, because I know some gems and some things that's going to be popping off that's going to transform lives. Let's go.
Absolutely. And like Lamont said, if you're watching us, go ahead and put hashtag heart level. Go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from. We are a global community. And so we know that there are people across the globe watching us, tuning in, men who are looking to be empowered. You know, here at Confidence Factor, our mission is simple, right? We want to empower the lives of over 5 million men to do what? Unleash their riches by developing what we call your confidence factor. And so riches, of course, stands for relationships, your income, your contribution, your health, your education, of course, your spirituality. We believe that riches is not just only your finances, but in the whole man. That's what we call it, the riches. And we believe that when you invest in yourself, obviously you're going to grow. And so we use what we call our SMART principles. The first thing is all about self-mastery, right? You are the foundation of your success. You know, you can never grow more than your self-image. And so investing in you is such a critical thing to be able to accelerate, not only in your professional life, but your personal life as well. I believe it's Benjamin Franklin who said, if you empty your purse into your mind, then your mind will empty gold into your hand. And I love that quote because that's so true, right? So it's such a powerful quote. So self-mastery is the first thing that you want to do, invest in yourself. And of course, the next thing is it's all about accountability, right? We want to create a community where we hold each other accountable for the goals and the dreams that we say that we want to accomplish. It's that serious. And oftentimes when we're left to ourselves, when we're left to our own self, sometimes we'll say things like, maybe I'll start tomorrow. How many times have you wanted to write a book, maybe start that business, maybe, take on a new business partner, or maybe, just invest in yourself at a higher level so you can really, as Dr. Love Jones would say, level up. And you said no to yourself. We want to support you in saying yes and having a structure. We call it the GPS, right? Having a structure so that you can make sure that you are consistent with taking the necessary action towards your goals. In fact, I think it was the educational community, the society says that your chances of increasing your goals, getting to your goals, increases by about 98% when you introduce accountability and also a community. And of course, the last thing that we have here in our SMART principles is resources and tools. We want to bring the right people, the right tools and resources and information to help you to level up in your business, to help you to level up in your life. And so that's our SMART principle. So we're excited you guys are here this week with us for another Confidence Factor Talks, another CF Talks. We've been having some amazing ones in the last couple of weeks. And so this is going to be another fire conversation, believe me. And so tonight's conversation, of course, if you don't mind bringing up the title again, Mr. Producer, it's all about miracle. It's all about having miracles, man. Walking miracles. We have a gentleman who is going to show us how to shortcut your way to success after being paralyzed by life. Oftentimes as we're going through the journey of life, we're going to meet with some obstacles. We're going to meet with some challenges. But, sometimes we meet with challenges that are so big. The question is, how do you navigate those? How do you go through the process mentally and physically to be able to really come out on the other side? And I got to be honest, some people don't make it. Some people don't make it. And so tune into this information to learn from experts, tune into people who've really gone through the fire, who have committed themselves to life's transformation, who have looked fear deep into the eye and says, no, I'm bigger than you. You want to be in these conversations because it's going to help you when you're going through the fire. As Winston Churchill says, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing one's enthusiasm. In life, you're going to lose your enthusiasm at times. You're going to have doubt. You're going to have fear. You're going to have anxiety. So being able to have these nuggets that our guest tonight is going to be sharing will help you to keep moving forward, as Winston Churchill, towards your success. So I'm really excited about this conversation, fellas. So, hey, listen, we went to Atlanta and it was a phenomenal opportunity. It was a phenomenal opportunity, such a great transformation that we had in Atlanta at the 360 Men Conference. Are you guys still fired up about that?
Oh, man, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
Listen, I'm just saying, it's like when you light that burn on the stove, you don't turn it off. It just stay lit. I'm lit from that. I'm still lighting up from that. I'm ever changed internally from that, man. That
beautiful.
Is an incredible conference.
Love it. Want to say hi to Wayne. Want to say hi to Vaughn, Michael, who is tuning in to us right now. What's going on, Lions? We see you out there tuning in. If you don't mind, put hashtag heart level in the comment section. Hashtag heart level. If you're watching us on the replay, put hashtag replay. Fellas, just before we introduce our guests, of course, what's one takeaway from the conference that you wanted to share again? Like, what was the one thing that stuck with you and you're continuing to apply in your life to be able to see transformation? Anyone can jump first.
Yep, mine is that I might not be perfect. I'm not perfect, but I'm present.
But you're present.
But I'm present. So even in the imperfection, even in the when the inner jerk tries to take over, I'm always trying to. My goal is to be present, to not use an excuse, but to be present. Yeah.
Beautiful. Dr. Love Jones, what's up for you, man?
Whatever you do, you gotta put your soul in it. And that's the thing I've took from that, is the ability to just put your essence into everything you do, because that's the one thing that can't be matched. Just like all things has a vibrational signature, we have a vibrational signature. When we put our signature behind the things that we're passionate about, it can't be matched. It can't be duplicated. It can't be fornicated.
I love it. I love it. Love it. Great shares, fellas. Great shares. I love
What about
that.
you,
Love
Darian?
that.
What about you?
Oh man, so many great things. But you know, like I said before, my biggest transformation came not just from the speakers, but from the conversation that we had. Right? To me, it's about those conversations that lead to a lot of transformation, and so many things were revealed. A lot of limiting beliefs that I've had really got transformed in a conversation that me and Javon had, and the ride back. And so to me, one of the things I'll say to the fellas is invest in yourself. Go to conference, read the book. Like I said, one voice, one conversation, one story can literally shift your life. And oftentimes, it's not the person who is 10 feet in front of you or a million miles in front of you. Sometimes it's the same person that's walking the same path that you can share one nugget that's going to be transformative. Right. And so with that, I'm looking forward to the nuggets that this particular guest is going to be sharing tonight. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest. We have our special guest with us. His name is Dr. Brent Baldasare, and he is an author of The Great American Food Fight and several other amazing health-related books for over 25 years, man. His passion has been helping people to overcome health challenges, to take their lives to the next level. The next level. He was born in Union, New Jersey in 1971, earned his doctorate from Life University in Atlanta, Georgia in 1997. And he's the co-founder of Affinity Med Spa and Wellness Center in Orlando, Florida, where he's helped more than 35,000 people. You heard me right. 35,000 people transform their lives and improve their health through his books, his seminars, his motivational events. And what's really special about Dr. Knight and why you want to listen to him is, listen, he has an amazing story, a miraculous story of how being paralyzed during his last college football game. Really, he took a lot of that, right, inspired him to really share a lot of his lessons that he learned, and he recovered from that. And that to me is just absolutely phenomenal. That's a huge game changer. Because I'm thinking, like I said, we all go through obstacles in life. We all go challenges. But this gentleman has been paralyzed. So I can't wait to hear what he's going to share with us tonight in reference to that. He's a serial entrepreneur. Of course, I got to mention that he's a father of 3, the owner of 26 business entities, and has helped train and mentor over 300 small business owners. So he is right for this community, and I'm looking forward to just having him aboard. So let's go ahead and bring on Dr. Brent to the table, man. Welcome, Dr. Brent.
What's up, guys? I'm excited.
All right.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Look at you, man. You guys got this set up beautifully.
Oh, man. Well, listen. That's credit to the producer. He's the man behind the scenes, and he's in front of the scenes today, making things happen and, of course, making us always look good. So we are excited to have you, Dr. Brent. And, as you know, we've been personally connected. I've been coming to you for my health services. He is a great chiropractor, but beyond that, just a great individual, someone who believes in helping people to transform. He is someone who will invest in you. He was someone who's asked the right questions. He's someone that's looking for the root cause. And this is why this community is here, to find the root cause of the things that we're challenged by. And I know Dr. Brett is going to be able to deliver some amazing message today. So Dr. Brett, welcome to Confidence Factor Talks. I'm so honored to have you today, my man.
Awesome, man. So you just tell me where you want to start. There's so much. I just listened to you guys on this little intro, and I mean, I just got a flood of things. I just want to jump in, especially when Lamont.
I know. So listen, we do that to some. We do that to people from time to time. But listen, we're gonna keep the show rolling. What we first want to do is we want you to tell the community a little bit about who you are. Listen, everybody has already been prepped that you've gone through this major transformation in your life. And here at Confidence Factor, we have heart-level conversations that lead to transformation. So we want to hear from your heart a little bit. Talk to us about that moment, and talk to us about, what it was like for you to have to really, transform through that process.
Yeah, so it's a great segue into being an entrepreneur. I mean, having been paralyzed, I played almost probably close to 19 years of football. I was captain, All-American, and and I share that with you not for an ego, but there's a certain persona that you take on at 20. That you're the leader of this team of 65 guys. There's a persona that you take on that you're invincible. There's a persona you take on that I'm the man, I'm the alpha, I'm a dominant. I can do whatever I want. And I went from that to nothing, paralyzed, couldn't walk, all within 10 minutes. So I went from like the top All-American defensive end, captain of the football team, to paralyzed, couldn't even wipe my butt, couldn't even feel my butt, couldn't feel anything from the waist down. Now it's a tragic story, and hearing that I was paralyzed, I don't want to over exaggerate this. I was paralyzed for about 4 days straight, and then it took me 2 years to recover and walk again. But within those 4 days, it's unbelievable how much pain a person can go through. So I know a lot of people have been through tragedy, and one of the things I recognize with you very quickly is that you can always tell the people who've had there's just the shittiest things happen to them, the most egregious things, the most biggest betrayals, the most pain in their life, because they become the best connectors on the planet. Once you've been hurt that bad, one of the things that you want to do if you're a humanitarian is that you want to make sure nobody else ever hurts that bad. Your life purpose becomes, how do I help more people? And then there's three major things that happens in that shift when you go from being in pain to no longer being in pain. And Lamont hit on this before I got on, is that you have to learn to be present. You have to learn. Eckhart Tolle talks about that the power of now, there's no fear in the present. There's only fear in what may happen. And there's only pain in what has happened, but there's never fear in the present. And what got me through being paralyzed was that, after, the thoughts I'm never going to walk again, the thoughts I'm never going to be a full man again, that I was a half a person, that I was invalidated, I will never be enough. Once that sunk in, I just remember feeling like my whole body collapsed in on itself. And I basically passed out, and I woke up like 18 hours later. Like, I was a different person when I woke up. I've talked to Dr. DeMartini and Joe Dispenza, and these guys are just big mentors of mine. And, they talk about that there was a blessing to that level of pain. My ego basically had to collapse in on itself, or else I was going to die with my ego, because your ego lies to you. Your ego tells you that you are the man, that the world revolves around you, that you're the center of the universe. And there's a reason you should have that. It's just when your ego dictates action is when you crash and burn. So when I had that implosion of my ego, when I woke up and just fully accepted my situation, okay, I'm paralyzed. This may be me. I may never walk again. This may be me. I had to find another skill set. I had to find something else to find gratitude in, which is the next thing we talked about, is one, become present. And then number two is to find gratitude in whatever situation you're in. Viktor Frankl wrote an amazing book, The Man's Search for Meaning, after he was in the Holocaust, and he had to find gratitude. He had to find purpose in anything, whether you're digging a ditch or whatever it's going to be. And a lot of us, if you're entrepreneurs, you've been through hell back, in particular with COVID. You have to find gratitude somewhere. And when I got to that moment, I felt peace, I felt present, I felt gratitude, and then I felt peace, which is basically acceptance. And coming through that transition, I really felt like I was in this state for like 10 years, but it really was about 4 days. That's all it took.
Wow.
But having gone through that level of pain, once I became present again and grace and gratitude, I felt different. I think Javon was talking about an energy in the world. My vibrational frequency changed, because when you're all ego, you're always projecting, and you're projecting to deflect from your own weaknesses. But when you're present, you are in a vibrational pattern that's accepting as you're giving and receiving. It's a very powerful state to be in. And I swear when I tell you this, Darian, even people in other rooms could feel my presence. The fish in the fish tank felt my presence. Like, there was an awareness of every living being around me. I heard this one doctor who was having a stroke, and she talked about this. She could feel the energy when her brain was melting. She could feel the energy and see the light of the people that walked in the room. And I experienced that going through that level of pain. So that was a starting point. But how this is relevant to you, because you guys have crazy stuff you've been through. You guys have had.
Yeah, we have. But hold on a second, because I really want to highlight a couple of things that you shared, because I don't want the guys to miss the just key important points that you talked about in this transition. Because here's what we know, Doc. Like I said, Winston Churchill says, success is the ability to go from these failure moments to failure without losing one's enthusiasm. And I want to highlight something you talked about, right? You said in the moment of your transition, right? You had to kind of release. You had to accept the reality. You had to accept what is. For a lot of us men, that's very challenging. To give up the ego. I mean, was it very simple for you? It sounds simple, but I want to kind of ask you to share them. Is that a process for you? Did you have to just let go, or was there something that you just realized, it is what it is, I'm just gonna have to find something else? And what was that for you?
No, it's a great question, and I've asked myself that quite a bit. I think I was lucky, and again, it may be just my optimism trying to find some silver lining in the moment. But I think I was lucky only being 21 and not knowing what I didn't even know yet. I just realized that, like, I'm pissed, I'm angry, I'm pissed, I'm angry, I'm pissed. I'm not. My soul is not pissed and angry, but I'm pissed and angry at this situation. And then at the end of the day, I'm pragmatic. Is being pissed and angry serving me any longer? And I got to a certain point, it wasn't serving anymore. And then the next emotion that just took over was peace and acceptance. And as soon as that peace and acceptance happens, I felt the weight let go, because, all pain comes from life unfolding in a way we didn't plan it to happen. At 21, I thought I was going to be possibly playing for the Eagles. And now in this moment, I'm experiencing there's no chance. Now, in reality, I would have never played for the Eagles. I wasn't that good. But my brain still told me that there was a possibility, because I was a good player. I was big. I had all this stuff. But when I was paralyzed, I knew there was no chance. So my future didn't match the blueprint and the plan that I had of myself moving forward. And that's where all stress and craziness comes from.
Man, I love that. And so what I'm hearing you say, Doc, is number one, you ask yourself very powerful questions as we're going through these process. Number one is ask yourself very powerful questions, and then you talk about acceptance, right? Acceptance, and I think that is so critical, because oftentimes, and me and you talk about this, is energy. What we resist persists. So it's almost like what you're saying is, when you let go of all that resistance of what is, you release that reality of the issue that you're facing, and it gave you an opportunity to focus on something else. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's 100% true. And I'll give you one more nugget that I got from that, is that when I would try to let go, consciously let go, I'd be like, okay, I'll get through this. I was giving myself this false belief system that this was not that big of a deal. Because what men do is this, like, women do this too, but like masculine energy takes gigantic freaking problems and it makes them small because they become solvable. Whereas, like I have all sisters, that feminine energy makes problems really big, because then it becomes something I connect with you with. So I felt myself making this issue really small. And what I had to do is move in a little bit to my feminine energy and allow vulnerability to come in and really recognize how fucked up this situation was. Like, I was not recovering. Like, the doctor said I need surgery. There's a good chance it's 50% I won't be able to walk again. I knew I'd never play football again. So, like, the more I got caught up on the facts of it, it really overwhelmed me. So the letting go part, it wasn't like me magically saying, I'm going to rise to a higher occasion. I'm an optimist. It was my whole body just saying, you have three walls you just boxed yourself in, and there's only one direction you go that has a good outcome. Every other outcome was death and destruction.
Wow.
But part of that comes, I will say this, because I grew up without a dad. I thought this was interesting that, when you were talking about that, this is a men's group, but I don't think you can have a men's group without talking about father figures. And part of my challenge, which, was like the light flashing before my eyes, as I grew up with that dad, so that had its own set of values and beliefs that instilled in me. And one of the things that somehow created in my mind that since I didn't have a stronger male role model in my life, I gravitated toward things like football that gave me, gave me agreement and validation that dominance and being dominant was rewarding rather than not being rewarded. So when I got to that position where I went from being one of the most powerful guys on a football team to being one of the weakest individuals on the planet, like, my whole identity collapsed. Like, I was no longer the man. I was what I considered a man. I mean, today I look back on it, it's so silly. It was just so silly. But, trying to tell a 21-year-old that what you're going to value at 50 versus what you value at 21 is not even on the radar. You don't even know what you don't know yet.
Right.
Oh my good. And I'm glad you brought it, because I know we're going to transition into entrepreneurship right now. And many of the fellas are growing their business, they're professionals. And I love what you just said. And of course, take us into a little bit more of the entrepreneurship journey, some of the things that you're doing, mentorship, the lessons that you've learned as 26 entities. I'm like, my goodness. Some people can't even handle one, but you're 26 in at this point, helping over 300 businesses to really thrive and grow their business. What has been that experience like? What are the things you've learned, and what are you teaching them to help them to grow?
Before you go there, I had another question though. Before you go there, because one of the things you talked about was a 2-year journey and learning how to walk again. So can you talk a little bit about what that was like in the in how did you was there incremental stages of advancement? Like how did that can you walk us through that?
Yeah, you caught that, Lamont, didn't you? So it's actually we could do a 5-day immersion seminar on what that actually means, but I'm going to give you the short version. So learning how to walk again means that like when I weigh 235 pounds and I'm used to sprinting and using the power of my legs and the strong muscles of my back and my body to move, when the nerve interfere or when the nerve no longer could communicate to those muscles anymore, even though as that healing took place, the wiring pattern from my brain to my body was no longer present. That pathway no longer worked because my body wasn't the same. This is what's crazy. Listen to this. This is crazy. So I was paralyzed on a weekend. By the time we got to Thursday, which is about 4 or 5 days away, I had already lost an inch of muscle mass on my legs. Because what people don't understand is that your nervous system feeds your entire body. So if you don't have nerve energy, there's an energy called exoplasmic flow, which is actually an electrical energy and a nutrient energy, a transfer of matter and energy from your nervous system to your body. And when that gets cut, when that gets disconnected, your body starts to shrink very quickly. It's like an apple on a vine. You cut the vine, that apple dies. Your body's the same exact way. So I actually looked, again, it might be just my silver lining way of looking at things, but I looked at this as an opportunity to learn how to have better posture. Like when I was walking again, I had to learn. It's a silly thing, but I'll show you real quick. Like when you stand to the side, you see the big guys in the gym, they usually go too far forward and they kind of have this kind of waddle. This is so freaking unhealthy for you. But we do this because it lets us flex our muscles and we look like we're bigger than we are. But it's so unnatural. So like as I started to ease up, you can kind of see the relaxedness coming to my body. I had to relax my body because I had to learn how to have my weight sit on my frame because my muscles and nervous system wasn't strong enough. So I learned how to have a neutral posture, which is way less energy. Like if you want to get energy throughout the day, then you can't hold on to this tension. This is exhausting and it's inefficient. So I had to learn how to be more efficient with my movement and my posture so I would minimize my energy. So it's a good observation, but there's an entire immersion series on how you can literally rewire your body because, look at me right now. Do I look happy or sad?
Yeah, you look depressed.
I look sad. I look depressed. In any culture in the country, in the world, this because this is a universal thing that the brain says is when we go into this posture, we're going to create sad hormones. So physiology, where my posture is going to have a neurological effect on what my mood, my chemistry is. You can take my blood work and it will be crappier in this position than just 2 minutes in this position. And you want to have power, you want to be an entrepreneur, then you need to come from a place of power. Because let me tell you, when you come from a place of fear, you're done. And when I was not accepting my injury, when I was still giving myself bullshit like hypothesis, like this is not that bad, I'll get through this with no problem. Like I was minimizing. When you tell yourself those lies, that's fear that you're putting that wall up against, and you're not dealing with reality. You make decisions based on unreal expectations again, and that will always crash and burn. Do that with finances, quick way to get bankrupt. Do that with your staff, quick way to have people leave. Do that with your customers. No longer you're inspiring. Now you're just dictating. That's coming from your ego again. So that's kind of where I saw. Hey, there's a lot of crossover. It's called the string theory. The string theory of physics runs through multiple dimensions of different philosophies in physics. There is a universal truth. And, getting back to what I was saying about, fatherhood, is that one of the things I felt when I no longer felt powerful and I felt at my weakest, and since I didn't have a father figure to go to, I actually felt alone. I mean, I felt isolated. I felt alone. I felt I didn't have anybody else to go to because I'm not going to share my deepest, darkest secrets and my insecurities with somebody I don't trust or know. And this is what happens to entrepreneurs. Everybody who's an entrepreneur at one point has felt alone. You've lost friends over it. Your family has not understood. You've been in positions where you maybe couldn't pay your staff, and that's as bad as lonely as it freaking gets. But I see the reality now of why I may have been injured. I am a believer that we're given lessons in life on a spiral like the Fibonacci sequence. We see things come up again. We just have more experience, and then we bring it to the present moment. We're going to learn from it and can move on and elevate. But we haven't learned from it, and that same lesson will come back around again. This lesson of I'm not enough and I'm alone, I learned early in life because there's never been a circumstance where I wasn't enough. Even paralyzed, even not having anything to really offer physically, I was still enough. In my business, if I ever feel like I'm not enough, or maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, we all have that insecurity no matter what business we're in. I need to recognize that that's a thought pattern, to challenge myself, to put myself in a state to be fearless again and make decisions based on that. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Very good. It did.
And
Wow.
I have one more question before we go, because you said something too, that you talked about gratitude, right? So what is the gratitude that you learned to give yourself during those moments?
So the moments when I was paralyzed was different than how I use gratitude today. When I was paralyzed, I was really searching for straws. Like, I was grateful that I had a doctor. I was grateful that I had a house, I had a roof over my head in a different state that I didn't even live in, that wasn't my hometown. I was grateful that somebody was liked me enough and were close enough to bring me food. And I had a lot of great guys from the team that helped me out. I was finding anything I could to be grateful for. I think what's maybe more relevant to your larger audience here is finding gratitude when the shit hits the fan and you're the one that's in charge. You're the one that's on the loan. You're the one that's spearheading your business. You're the one that needs to deal with all the problems that come up in the business, and you hold a lot of responsibility. You know what you should be grateful for? That it is you making that decision. That you're the one in control. You're the one that's in the driver's seat. You're the one that's the pilot. Because guess what? If I crash and burn, I hope I'm the pilot and not the passenger in the back of the airplane. May not be the best metaphor, but I want to be in control. If I'm going out or if I'm going down, I want to be full out. I want to know that throttle is going 100 miles an hour. As entrepreneurs, a challenge that we have is we tend to learn how to fly while we're in the airplane, because there's so many new things that are coming our way, especially now. I've been in business for almost 29 years now. And like you said, 26 business entities, and different niche markets have different things you need to specialize in. And even just in the last 3 years, online marketing has changed, social media marketing has changed, ClickFunnels has changed, lead gen, lead nurture, sales, operations, it all changes. So you need to be flexible in your approach. And I really think my injury, again, the reason it happened for me is I was very inflexible before my injury. Like, if I thought something was true, that became my reality. And if you challenge that reality, then you were challenging me personally. So, man, maybe thank God I got paralyzed and got a little reality check that what I thought was the truth may not be the truth. Because I'll be honest with you, I believe very few anything I feel overly confident about, I know that there is probably some untruth to it.
Yeah. I love what Tony Robbins always says. He says the lie that I currently believe, right? It gives him perspective of knowing that a belief can always shift, right? You can believe what you have today doesn't necessarily mean that's the full truth. So it opens him up to possibilities beyond just what he currently believes. I love that. So, this is a great thing. Guys, if you have any other questions, I wanted to transition a little bit more into business and wealth, and what are some of the things that Dr. Brent just shared, how that applies to those areas of life as well, because we have entrepreneurs in the group, and as we are navigating as entrepreneurs, businesses, I want Dr. Brent to share some of the principles and the lessons that he has learned and the key things that he's helping to not only grow his business successfully, but also other entrepreneurs he's had the opportunity to work with as well. So, you guys have any additional questions or? Okay, all right, we're good to go. So Dr. Brent, let's transition into that, man. You shared a lot about your journey, and some of the principles and things that you shared, I know applies to entrepreneurship. You talked about the father figure, you talked about being present. What are some of the things from an entrepreneurship, from a wealth building standpoint, do we need to be considering and thinking about as it applies to your journey and the lessons you've learned?
So I want to give you some real value that you and your audience could take after almost 30 years of being in business. Is that I think you guys talk a lot about having heart. I think you guys talk a lot about having your soul and the energy of who you are, your essence, come through, and that will help you grow your business. It's 100% true. Here's where most of us screw this up as entrepreneurs, is that we have a disbelief. We know who we are. A lot of you guys are adult men now. You know who you are. What you don't know is how you fit the most value into your company from your own personality. Like, there's 3 personality types for all companies. You either have a technician, you either have a manager, or you have an entrepreneur. And most business owners think that they're entrepreneurs, and they're not. They're technicians. They're doctors, they're lawyers. They are good at a technical component of their business, but they are not entrepreneurs because they're not profitable. They're not entrepreneurs because they're not building a system that you can scale. They're not entrepreneurs because entrepreneur, by definition, entre means to be, preneur, profitable, means to be profitable, which means that if you are a technician, you are more interested in how good your craft is and not how profitable you are. The reason McDonald's makes a lot more money than anybody else is because Ray Kroc was an entrepreneur and he didn't care as much about the burger as he did about the profit. So the burger became an avenue to be profitable. When I started it in my practice, I knew I was a technician. And no matter how hard I try to break out of the mold, I'm a technician. I love friggin' being a doctor. I love nothing more getting my hands on. I get an emotional paycheck when somebody comes into my office who can barely walk, and like 3 weeks later, there's no pain in their jogging. It's my emotional paycheck. That's not how entrepreneurs think. So I know going into my business ventures now, if I'm coming in as the entrepreneur, I cannot be the technician in the business because I'll screw it up. I will slow down profit. I will slow down scalability, and I will slow down growth. So, one of the reasons I have so many different kind of companies that I get involved with. Now, most of those I've sold off. There's another story. I was sued for $30 million for a real estate transaction on my bed. And there's another paralysis in my life was that. But most of us think that we're the entrepreneur, we're the technician, or we're just good managers, meaning that we can't build the ship on the front end. We're very good at managing the ship as it's already been built and we have a system in place. But true entrepreneurs are on the front end constantly. That's why it's lonely. That's why the thought process is different. That's why you need to be fearless. You cannot have fear drive you and be an entrepreneur. You just can't do it. It does not mix. It does not go into. There's a formula to be successful as an entrepreneur, and you can have fear. But what do they say? What do they say? Being brave is being. How's that quote go? You're still afraid, but you do it anyway.
Do it anyway. Feel the fear, but do it anyway.
And I'm not saying don't have fear. I'm saying feel the fear. Like what I do right now. Like if I have a scenario that comes up that looks just unbelievably daunting, whether it's a financial, barrier I have to go through, it's a law change that I need to make massive changes in my business with. I go to dark places. Like I don't sugarcoat, and I'm a positive guy, but I will go to, if this all collapses and I have to file for bankruptcy and my kids are going to starve and they're going to die. I go to dark. I want to feel the pain. I want to put myself in a position where I burn my ships on the decision that I make, that I can't go back. So I want to go to the polar opposite, the extreme of how bad can I scare myself if I feel myself coming out of fear. And then I'll put myself in such a fearful place that then we have a polar opposite reaction. And I pull myself back over here to just being, okay, that is not an option. My body does not allow that type of failure. So what is the answer? I may not know the answer, but I'll put myself in a position that says, no matter what, I'm going to find a solution. And that's what an entrepreneur does.
Wow. Listen, we got to highlight what you just said, because that's so powerful. And, one of my favorite authors, Dr. Robert Anthony, he talks about doing this thing called cost-benefit analysis. When you're in a situation, do the cost-benefit analysis, because a lot of times we don't take action because we never really evaluate what the cost is. And what Dr. Brent just shared with us is you got to evaluate the cost. And so what you're saying, Doc, and let me make sure I'm clear on this. What you're saying is whenever you're in a situation, you have to make a major decision, or life, presents you with a defining moment, you're actually analyzing the cost. You go deep into those dark moments where you analyze the cost so that you don't get paralyzed. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, because analysis paralysis is just a form of fear setting in. Like perfectionists are people who are very afraid, because we all know it's impossible to be perfect. We all know it's possible for something to be perfect. So if I tell myself, oh, I'm a perfectionist, I won't do it until it's perfect, then guess what I'm telling you? I'm never doing it, because it'll never be perfect. But I'm going to use it as an excuse that it's a problem bigger than myself that I can't help because I'm so perfect. That is, if you ever have a partner that thinks that way, get out. Get out of the relationship. They are not an entrepreneur. They may not even be a good manager at that point. So run if you see that trait.
Wow. And Doc, so clearly on your journey, you had to learn this. And is this something that you've done with your practice? Because I know you do some coaching as well with businesses. Or is there resources that, people can tap into to learn how to figure out, their style, if they're more a tactician or whatever the case is?
Yeah. So like this is my studio. So like I think I'm partly schizophrenic, but if you're an entrepreneur, you definitely have to learn how to compartmentalize. So like my home office is very much accounting based. There's calculators, there's spreadsheets, Excel, everything is very analytical. This is above my practice. This is my studio. This is where my son and I do a lot of our content creation. He runs a lot of our online marketing stuff. But like, this is my free space. I feel when I come in here, I'm on the second floor. Nobody can bother me up in here. My reception is great. I got 25 computers up here. I mean, this is creativity at its finest. So when I have, I do some consulting, and I've become like deeper into a niche than shallow across the surface now. So most of like the people I'm working with are either chiropractors or sometimes dentists or regen med centers or people who've got the same kind of technical issues that I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But one of the things I noticed the most about them, this is why I opened a little bit with, are you an entrepreneur? Are you a tech? Are you a manager? Is that every doctor I talk to thinks they're an entrepreneur. They think that they're the next Bill Gates CEO, and they're not. And they shouldn't be, because if they were, they'd commit suicide, because they would get everything they want and have no contentment and enjoying their life, because what lights them up is saving patients, not making money. And the quicker you learn what lights you up, then you can make more money with it. But if you keep lying to yourself, telling you that I'm going to be the boss, I'm going to be the CEO, I'm going to have a private jet, but you don't have a purpose or a passion attached to that, then you have no chance.
Say that again, Doc. Repeat what you just said, please. I want for everyone to hear that, please.
So, like, again, when I work with doctors, they think that they want to be the boss because they think that being the boss is about how much money they make and that they're a CEO and they have a lot of power and influence over people. But what lights them up is helping patients. You guys all have something that lights you up. You got to find a higher purpose of what makes you content and joyful on the inside. And then, you find a way to monetize that. But if you don't do that, then you're just going to be a soulless, rich individual who will then become very destructive in society because you have the power and influence to do something, but you're not doing it out of gratitude. You're just doing it out of power and ego. And we all know who they are.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Listen, what we're talking about tonight is alignment. I mean, that's the word that I will use when I hear Dr. Brent talk about, the congruency of what lights you up and then making money. Because Doc, let me ask you this, because so oftentimes as men, we're taught in society, well, depending on the community, to get the bag or, make as much money as you can, the wealth, and we chase success and we forget about fulfillment. So Tony Robbins has a quote that says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. In your experience, is that true, or is there a variation we need to look at when we're considering pursuing money, pursuing wealth in business as entrepreneurs or tacticians?
Yeah, so I will tell you that quote. What was it? Success without contentment, failure. Only rich people say that shit.
Yeah.
Because when you're broke, screw that. I need money right now because I'm not content. There's nothing you can give me right now until I've got some stability. So, they ran a study, and there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door. Yes. And in the U.S., now I think adjusting for inflation right now, you need to be bringing in $75,000 to $85,000 to live pretty well in the U.S. So that quote is relevant if you're making enough to maintain a lifestyle. But, if you're below that and you're not like meeting ends meet, then you're in survival mode, and you should be in survival mode. At that point, you need to find a way to, to hit your bottom line. And then as you kind of escalate, like through the hierarchy of, Maslow, you get shelter and food taken care of. Then you go to contribution above self. And that's ultimately where you want, where I see all us entrepreneurs wanting to get to. But I want to back up for a second, because I think there's a point I may have I might have glossed over that's really important. Is the level of if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, or even a manager for that matter, you need to be 100% accountable and responsible for what happens. Like, one of the things that drives me crazy, if I have a manager who constantly blames, a junior post, or constantly blames another point, I'm like, well, at what point do you want to fucking take responsibility for this? Because if you don't take responsibility for it, I got to take responsibility for it. And you're between me and that person, or you're between me and that problem. So you tell me how you take accountability and responsibility for this. And if they can't answer that, then they're moved out of that position. And it needs to be immediate. It can't be, well, I like you. I went to school with you. Your kids are awesome. You are doing yourself an injustice to your business if you don't move them. You're doing an injustice to them if you don't move them out quickly. So, being 100% accountable and responsible for the things that happen in your business means that you need to make the tough decisions. And tough decisions don't just mean firing people. It means that on their way out or on the way to transition is you need to have clarity with why you no longer think that they should be in that position. Sometimes it's disciplinary stuff, but and a lot of times they have personal stuff going on and need to be temporarily moved out, or that you've made the mistake as an entrepreneur that you have misplaced them as a team member on your team with an asset that either no longer is valuable or no longer has relevancy. And that right there, if you want to get to the crux of why your business is scaling, I can tell you right now, that's it. I've had to let my accountant of 11 years go within the last 2 years because of the changes in the way I do my accounting. Like my accounting, I used to do this. I'm almost embarrassed to say this. My accounting, I would have a checking account and a savings account. And all the revenue would come in, and then I would pay all the bills. And if there was anything left, that would be my profit, and I would move it over. It's old school thinking.
Yeah.
So there's a great book called Profit First, and he did a great job showing me how to do this. But I've got 5 accounts now. My accounting is complex. My accounting now accounts for the profit I want as an expense, whereas for the last 10, 15 years, my profit was whatever was left over at the end of the month. So guess what would happen? And all businesses do this. All businesses eat through their cash. And if you got a ton of cash sitting in the account, you will find a way to justify all the expenses. But if you pull a profit out first and move it to a different account, if you pull savings out, if you pull cap contributions out before you start getting into paying the bills, then you find a way. It's like you ever been to a restroom and there's only like 3 sheets of toilet paper left?
I can't say I've had that experience, but I know where you're going. I know what you're saying.
You get creative when resources get small.
Yeah. That's basically what you're saying. Yes, I think there's a terminology for it, which is if you whatever time is allowed. It's a time principle. If you say, hey, listen, I'm allowed hour and a half to do this particular task or 50 minutes or whatever, you get it done within that particular time. It's like collapsing the time and being able to get it done with that time. So I understand the principle what he's sharing. That's a very powerful principle. So profit first is the book, huh?
Yeah, it's an excellent book. Excellent book. But it's funny what you're saying because my son, I have him do a lot of tasks. We have deadlines. And if I give him a deadline that's more than about 4 or 5 days, that shit never gets done. If I give him a deadline within 24 hours, not only does it get done, but it gets done at a level of it's top-notch work. Because he compresses it and prioritizes and he cuts out the stuff that's extraneous and then he focuses on just what the task at hand is, has a deadline, doesn't overthink it, submits it, and it's done. That's powerful. Now, I will say what's interesting. My son my son is incredibly bright. He's incredibly talented. He started doing, Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels?
Yeah.
He started his training at 13. Yeah. So you're talking about, it was more important for me that my kid knew how to make money, how to communicate, than knowing every state's capital. So it was more about teaching him the process of how to do this. But what I thought was interesting, he felt himself losing some ambition. He felt himself becoming inefficient in his work. So he just did a dopamine fast. And a dopamine is the drug that makes you feel good in your brain. But like anything else, if you have too much of a drug, the crash is hard. So one of the things he had to do was, limit the caffeine, limit the sugar, clean up his diet quite a bit. But he also had to limit his cell phone time instead of all day to only 2 hours a day. Because every time you look at that little post you did to see how many likes you got, there's a dopamine hit. There's a dopamine hit. Every time you check that Facebook thing or you see something like dopamine, and it's like these little hits of cocaine. And then before you do it, then you need more cocaine to feel filled. And when these dopamine centers get flooded, then they actually lose some of their effectiveness. So I highly recommend if you're an entrepreneur and you're losing some ambition or maybe some motivation or even some drive, cut out the news, cut out your phone, cut out everything that doesn't naturally come in as a stimulus and see what happens to your focus again.
Wow. That's powerful. I didn't expect you to take it there, but that's so relevant because I think one of the things that's stealing so many entrepreneurs' drive, like you said, is the lack of focus. And we're losing focus because there's so many distractions, there's so many things vying for attention. They say attention is currency, but attention is also, the currency that we can use to create. But if we don't harness it, if we don't control it and focus it in, guess what? It gets displaced and then we don't get to result. So it's interesting you're bringing it up. So that is something that he did, and it has it helped tremendously. What was the result?
Oh, I don't know. He's only on day 4.
Okay.
No, he definitely got his energy back, and he noticed that when he went back and had a little bit of sugar again, the reaction was much more palpable. When he had his pre-workout, it was much more palpable. He kind of reset the dulling of the receptors a little bit. The challenge that we have today is that we have too many choices. We have too many things available. Like if you've ever read any of my books, the thing I'm big about is cutting the sugar out of your diet. Like the quickest way to get fat, old, ugly, and die poor and broke with the most disgusting disease that's going to give you pain the rest of your life is to eat too much sugar. It's just that simple. So cutting sugar out in particular is a great way to do that. And then give yourself good nutrients, because look, if you want to have energy, if you want to have clarity of thought, if you want the synapses between the brains to work as good as possible, it has to work on the fuel that makes sense in the body, which are electrolytes and minerals and proteins. The more artificial stuff you put in your body, or you start to put all those high levels of sugar into your body, you actually decrease your ability to focus and your brain's function. So I'm big on the diet, and I can always get into specifics of diet, but I've learned after 25 years and 35,000 patients, you know what to eat. You don't need me to tell you what. You already know. I mean, you want me to give you some specifics, because of whatever you have likes or what. You know what to eat. What you've lost is your resourcefulness. And one of the things I like about switching my accounting over to having 5 bank accounts is my operating account. I constantly shrink it. I am trying to work with less resources. I want to be hungry. When I get up in the morning one of the worst things ever happening was being successful early. So I'll diverge for a second. When I was 30 something, I got involved in East Orlando with a lot of the real estate. So we built almost 14 shopping centers around here. So I had a bank account at like 31 that was way more than, my parents ever made, way more than I was ever even planning on making. And I just got lazy and I lost my focus because all of a sudden it became comfortable. It's like, it's like that boxer who wins the championship and now moves into the $1 million house. But he got the championship because he lives on a tent and he worked his ass off 14 hours a day. He ate, he worked, he worked. He had purpose. He had vision. He was on a singular track to get where he wanted to be. So one of the reasons I like that strategy too is you got to find a way to stay hungry. Stay hungry in your relationship with your wife. Stay hungry in your relationship with your staff. Are you constantly staying on them as far as what is the standard of your office? What is the standard of your business? What is the purpose? Can you break down in one sentence what the purpose of your business is? If you can't, it's probably too complicated. We want to get laser beam focused, and the fewer things that you have to focus on, the more power you can focus that energy.
Man, I love that. Staying hungry, finding a way to staying hungry. And Doc, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think so oftentimes, it's like when you get to levels of success, you're right, you kind of lose a little bit of your drive. So you have to re-engage something that keeps sparking your interest to keep moving forward, because it's so easy for us to get complacent, so easy for us to get comfortable, right? They say the brain loves what's familiar and it hates what's unfamiliar. so that. Go ahead. You're going to say something.
What I was going to say is when I feel myself get comfortable now, I intentionally make myself uncomfortable. So like I will pull resources. Financial, I make myself work with less. Body wise, I like to do a lot of sauna work. So sometimes I can try to do 160 degrees for an hour, and it's painful. And what I'm trying to do is tell my body, don't take this shit for granted. When we step out of here, we need to be grateful that we're in 72 degrees and we have plenty of water. Find ways to make yourself hungry. It's easier when I play football because, I wanted admiration, I wanted acknowledgement. But the older I get, the harder it is to try to find create those opportunities to really, really make my hunger push me in a direction.
Yeah.
And, part of what we do with entrepreneurs is you got to motivate your team. If you come to the meeting like, oh, another day, another dollar. I gotta make the donuts. Like if you come like with no energy at all and no purpose and no passion, you just give permission to your entire team to do that. So you can never lose your edge. You got to stay hungry and you got to keep the energy level up and focused on as fewer goals as possible.
Man, and that is a good summary for the show. But I did want to ask you one other thing, because I think what you hit on, and we didn't really touch on it a lot, was this whole thing about the sugar and the diet and how it contributes to our energy. And then that energy now is what we can use to be able to create more success, wealth, whatever we want in life, or just live the life that we want. What are some of the alternatives? Because as guys, as men, we try to wean ourselves off of the sugar and all this. What are some of the alternatives that we can use to help to wean ourselves off of like the sugar and some of these other things? What can we do?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of research on sugar. I don't like to get too complicated, but sugar is actually a very complicated subject. So like in the 1700s or even before, when we had to go forage for a food you couldn't go through drive-through, the average person would consume 4 pounds of sugar in a year. 4 pounds. And even before that, like Neanderthal times, it was probably closer to 1 pound because you had seasonal berries that were the only sugar you get a hold of. You know, unless you found like a honey pot. But our bodies were not designed to have sugar readily available. So 4 pounds was in the 1700s per year. Today, your average teenager has 190 pounds of sugar. 190. Our bodies were never designed for that. So what happens when we do that is that it becomes a toxicity to the brain and the body. And kind of on a cellular level, what it does is it makes your swells become inflamed. So you've got over 30 trillion cells that intercommunicate with each other in the body. So if you have 30, let's say 30 trillion people who you have to have conversations with, you need to have speed of communication and efficiency to make that happen. When cells swell, they stop communicating in between each other. So when you slow down the communication between cells, you lose focus, you lose energy, and then the cells have a hard time detoxifying themselves. And when a cell can't detoxify itself, it becomes diseased, which is cancer, which is diabetes, which is plaquing, which is anything with an itis, laryngitis, bursitis, pericarditis. All that means is that those cells have become inflamed. And 75%, the Surgeon General in 1985 discovered, when we started having a lot of sugar research coming out, 75% of diseases today are attributed to the diet, in particular the amount of sugar we take. Now, the challenge comes is that in the late 60s, the government subsidized corn and soy to help save the farmers. But what they did is they created this processing of food that had, 65% of the ingredients were corn and soy. And when you hyper-concentrate corn, it's called high fructose corn syrup. And high fructose corn syrup is not just sugar. It's sugar times 10 concentrated. So if you've got people who are soda people, that's different than even putting sugar in your coffee, because it's fructose, which is not sucrose, which is a simpler sugar. And fructose bypasses the digestive process, goes straight to the liver and gets stored as glycogen and goes to become visceral fat, which is why we have a diabetic problem in the U.S. So the high fructose corn syrup is an easy way to kill a community. And the pharmaceutical companies are not going to step in and really do a lot for this, because it's way more profitable for you to get hooked on a drug for a long-term chronic disease than it is for you to actually stop doing the things that create more disease. And that's not a conspiracy. I mean, people hear me say that that's facts. I mean, just look at the research. Just ask a pharmaceutical rep, and they will tell you the same thing.
Yeah, man, Doc, that was phenomenal. And we have another minute to go, but I did want to ask you one last question before we do our inspiration injection. And this was great, and I know we're going to bring you back because there's so many different ways and so many different angles we can take this. So we appreciate you. So here's my question: what does success at 50 look like versus 21? Because you said that early on, and I want you to just I know it may be a bit broad question, so give me the shortest answer you can. What does it look like at 50, and what does it mean at 50 versus when you look back at 21?
Yeah, it's very simple. At 21, success was money, power, and how much bling I could show people how successful I was. Because I didn't come for money, so I felt like I had to show people how much money I had, and then it was such a waste of time, energy, and resources, and it didn't get me anything I was looking for. Success at 50 looks more like making a bigger contribution to other people. It looks like carving out space for my family so they don't have to stress about the things that I did. It's about putting myself in a position where the power, the influence, and the mistakes that I've made literally, truly help change. Like, not like a warm bath makes them feel better in the short term, but literally helps ingrain habits and things into their lifestyle that can change them forever. Like my big thing, like my staff, no matter what company we're with, my number one purpose is connection. We need to connect. Like you and I hit it off immediately. I knew you were the same type of guy. So like when people come into my office, they may not like chiropractors, but they tend to connect with me because I genuinely want to know more about them. Like I have some doctors who are like, my entire life I've been told that you guys are quacks and to never go to you. But I trust you. And there's something about you that I feel like you have my best interest at heart. That's my emotional paycheck. At 50, it's more about making that connection to making an impact than it is how much I can impress you. Like I used to walk into a room and I wanted to be like, everybody check me out. Now I walk into a room, I'm like, I want to learn more about you. That's the biggest difference.
Wow. All right, Doc, man, that was a great closing for us. Thank you so much for all your insights that you shared tonight, the gems you've given us on the health, on your transition. I want to honor you for saying yes to yourself. I want to honor you for going through that transition. Your message is truly a message, and you're here to serve a bigger purpose. And I just love that God has given you an opportunity to be able to share this message of your life with so many people as you continue to connect. So what we'd love to do is, can you share with us, how can the guys, reach out to you? What resources, website, all that good stuff they want to reach out to you?
Yeah. So if you want to Google, where is that right there? See where it says Affinity?
Yeah, there you go.
Right there. So affinityregenmed.com is my website, or you can just Google Dr. Brent Baldasare. But I'm more than happy to contribute any way I can to any group. I typically do like doing men's groups better because it's easier for me to connect with that. And healthcare is definitely my specialty.
Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful. Well, listen, I am a patient of Dr. Brent, so hey, I'm definitely co-signing him, and he's somebody that has connected with me for the first time that we met, and it was amazing. Amazing.
And one thing I say is, I love how you broke down disease. Man, I'm glad that a doctor sees it that way. That's all I can say.
That's awesome, man.
Beautiful stuff. All right, well, Dr. Brent, listen, we're going to put you in the back. Appreciate you so much. And definitely we'll be connecting soon about bringing you back on the show. And we'll be talking about other ways that we can help you to grow. And, of course, how you can contribute here with Confidence Factor. So, again, we honor you. Thank you so much. As we always say in Confidence Factor, heart level to you, sir. Heart level to you.
Heart level.
Appreciate you.
Heart level. I love it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, fellas. So we're closing the show tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. We went over a little bit, but listen, Dr. Brent is so full of wealth of information and so much great nuggets, and we wanted to just squeeze as much things out of him as we can. He's somebody who's always about contribution. But tonight's inspiration injection, of course, is simply this: you can have a failure, but don't make fail yours. That's Mickey Smith, and that's one of the quotes we got from the 360 Men Conference. Absolutely. Let me say it again: you can have a failure, but don't make the fail yours. I love that. Anyways, listen, so from the producer, Mr. Lamont Gwen, from Javon, Dr. Love Jones, Mr. Level Up, we honor you, we appreciate you, we love you guys here in this community. We're here to support you. And as Dr. Brett says, listen, the journey of entrepreneurship can be lonely. Don't let the loneliness, the isolation, and you feeling that you don't matter stop you from connecting with someone in the group. One conversation, one person can change your life, and we believe that. And so, like we always say in Confidence Factor, in everything that you do, you keep it
heart level.
Heart level.
Heart level.
See you guys next week.